Neat for February 2016. I'm your host Ken Patterson, and this month we've got a great show. We're going to start off the show with Michael Budde, who built some beautiful trailers from scratch. Just some really nice model Mike's got to show us this month. Ed Richardson stops by with some radio-controlled vehicles. Vehicles that drive at scale speeds on the layout, something we've all been desiring, and the Europeans have had that conquered for some time. Ed Dressel stops by and shows us some fresh sagebrush that he just picked and explains to us how to groom it and prepare it to make trees. Of course, we've got some super nice footage, drone footage from John Dietzen this month, along with an Athearn photo shoot where we really pursue a photograph, a cold winterscape shot. We do multiple photo shoots in pursuit of the perfect photograph. But first this month, I want to start out with tool tips. I picked up one of these new Dremel micro machines the other day, and it's really a small, easy to hold machine. It's got a light on the front, and I'll tell you what, this little thing's got power. I was able to cut HO scale track with no problem. It works super good for drilling the holes in our structures right before we put our nut and bolt castings in, because it's got a nice, easy to hold smallness about it that I really kind of like. As you see, it's smaller than the Dremel that we featured in the show about 4 months back, but yet it's still got enough power that I was able to cut through garden railroad track with it. And at the same time, it's got some nice features such as lithium-ion batteries. Now, my old Dremel that I had 20 years ago, I really liked it because of its size, but of course it had Nikon batteries in it, and those developed memories and eventually just quit working. You're not going to have that problem with this device, so check it out if it's something you're thinking about. Dremel's got a new small machine here that's a mighty little mite, and I think it's perfect for what we use for the hobby. For this segment of What's Neat, we've got Mike Budde with us again with some beautiful trailers that he's been building over the last 6 weeks. He said he's built about 20 of these, and it's just some magnificent work from the 70s that you'd be used to seeing in our prototype books. So let me hand it over to Mike and let him talk about these new vehicles that he's made.
Hi, these are drop frame trailers that were popular in the maybe early to mid 70s, late 70s. But they were very popular in my modeling period, 1979. So none were available for a long time. So I took this UPS metal trailer model and converted it by filling in the wheel wells and doing some body work on it. And then I made a rubber mold of it, and I poured my own resin castings. I did doors, nose, and then both sides. Then I did the styrene. Used styrene for the top and the bottom, but anyway, I've made about 20 trailers. Did a little variations on them to make up different prototypes and to represent different railroads, and made some side door ones here. I took a casting off of the back door of one of the trailers and made these side door versions here, which Santa Fe and Penn Central had a lot of. So now that I spent all the time doing that, Trainworks has come out with their own version of this model. So this is all for nothing, but it was fun doing it. So that's what I did.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing this with us, Mike. These are some pretty cool looking models, man.
All right, well, thanks. See you next time.
This segment of What's Neat, I've got a really special guest who's into modeling RC vehicles in HO scale that run at scale speeds. Now, I've been having discussions with Athearn and Horizon Hobby because they've got a development department for their radio-controlled airplanes, which I think it would be a natural fit for them to add a product like that to the American market. But someday, one manufacturer is going to do that. Today, we've got Ed Richardson. He lives here in St. Louis, and he's modeled these RC vehicles to the point where they run at scale speeds. He's even taken pickup trucks and put the steering and the motivation for the vehicles to move into them. magnificent work. Let me hand it over to Mike Budde and Ed Richardson for this segment of What's Neat.
Hi. We have Ed Richardson here. I've known Ed we've been friends for almost 20 years now. And we've always shared interest in vehicles. We always like cars. Ed's got his own auto repair shop, and he's done a lot of ground off restorations on vehicles and stuff. But one thing he really did that I liked was he was the one that designed this auto carrier that Plano made some parts for, and then Overland finally ended up, is that who?
And Lone Star.
And Lone Star, yeah, they ended up releasing this kit, and it's the one that might still be available today. But now Ed is into these RC remote control vehicles, and he's taken some of the European style cabs and taken the motors and put them in American style trucks. So you want to tell us a little more about it, Ed?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ken. So yes, just to piggyback on what they're saying, I've taken this model here, which is a Trucks and Stuff W900 Kenworth, and I've taken it completely apart and installed some of the European components like the gearboxes here, which give it scale speed, also the servo, and install some small LiPo batteries in it that allow them to be charged at a very fast pace and offer scale speeds and still retain the factory look from the manufacturer. So
Yeah.
this is one here that is one of the European models that I got my hands on, made by Keyens. I'll give you a demonstration of how it works. So we'll look at the lights, and then here we go on some of the steering styles that it offers. So we have turn signals and scale speed. That's what's important.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And
Now, who manufactures that model?
this model is made by Keyens, Japanese
Didn't that
company.
come out like 10 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think they're long gone. Now this is another model here that I created using some of the parts from Keyens and some of the other scratch built parts. You can see some of the circuitry that's required underneath there. And this unit also has scale speeds with an American cab on it. So you can see that the options are limitless as far as your imagination will go. So what's next is American vehicles, like police cars and some of Mike's old classic cars. That's what's next.
What was the brand name of the pickup truck that you were able to power?
There was a River Point station, one of their F-250s, and that unit will be in a future episode with working lights and some of the other cool features on it.
Show us the underneath side of this red truck and tell us what website and where we can go in Europe to get the parts. What do we need to make our models work?
What you need, first of all, is to just find your cab that you desire, the one that you like. And then next of all, you need to find you a gearbox with a scale speed attached from a company called Sol Expert. And they're online, Sol, SOL-expert.de. And they offer the micro servos and the micro gearboxes. And those are the only components that you really need, or those parts. The radio systems are something that you can get from your local hobby store. I need that to be transparent. It's transparent. That this little guy here is a blade like you find on some of the little inexpensive helicopters and quadcopters. You just need this radio and the receiver along with the servo and the gearbox, and you have a working model.
That's amazing. And what website do we need to go to?
Sol Expert, SOL-expert.de.
And we'll put that on the bottom of the screen.
But thanks for having us.
Ed,
Yeah.
man, these are magnificent models. It's really great. We can't wait to see all of these models running and that new pickup truck from River Point Station that you're talking about. Thanks a lot for showing us this on What's Neat.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
segment of What's Neat, I'd like you to meet an old friend of mine, Ed Dressel. Now, Ed and I used to work on the Midwest Valley Modelers layout together back in the early 90s, and we also worked on a layout owned by a fellow named Bill Waymeyer. A beautiful layout out in St. Charles. It was the Katy layout that Bill was building. And there's one thing that we learned on working on that layout early, and that was the lifelike trees and the pre-made trees just didn't look as realistic as sagebrush trees. And that's something that we tried to do, is to make our scenery look very believable and very nice. So today I'd like you to meet my friend Ed Dressel, a great guy who brought me a whole load of sagebrush fresh from Colorado in the last few hours. And I just kind of like him to talk a little bit about this. Where do you find great product like this for making trees for our layouts?
Well, Ken, obviously living in Colorado for the past 20 years, been able to traverse the different terrains and travel through it. This is actually from the southwest region of Colorado. There's 6 different species of sagebrush, many giving you different textures and colors. This specifically, again, was salvaged along the New Mexico-Colorado border. But there's different species that range all the way out to Lyman, Colorado on the plains. You know, we spent a lot of time in Model Air trying to do 2 different things. One is recreate hardscapes of actual locomotives and cars and structures, and then we spend the other half trying to replicate Mother Nature. And there's no better way to actually do that than with a realistic tree that is formed by the nature.
These things smell really good.
Well,
now,
sage.
This is sagebrush in its raw form. I've never actually seen it. Like when you buy the sagebrush in stores, you don't have these leaves on it. So
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you do to process this to get it ready to use on the layout?
Typically, I take a hard wire brush for cleaning metal and kind of break it through there, and it gets all the loose debris, removes all the extra dead sage leaves, and it kind of preps all the bark and stuff for making it ready.
This looks great. Now I've got a video coming out on kenpatterson.com where we're going to discuss 7 different ways to make trees, and sagebrush is one way to do it. And I look forward to taking some of this material and turning it into realistic looking vegetation.
Look forward to more different species coming too as well, Ken.
Man, Ed, I wish you lived in town, man. We do a lot of good video for the show, but thank you for bringing this material.
Absolutely, Ken. Pleasure.
For this segment of What's Neat, I've been asked by Athearn to create another cold winterscape photograph. And for this one, we're going to copy this Robert Frascella photograph of the Erie Locomotives units running through a cold February snow. Now, using artists' paintings to recreate shots is nothing new. It's always been handy to do that. I've done it for years with Howard Fogg's work. And the nice thing about artists is they usually take and they remove the telephone poles and position the trees and all the scenery. In other words, your photographs, they're already been thought about and they're laid out. So all the work, all the answers to making our photographs look better is in the paintings. And so that's why it's helpful to use painters. Another favorite painter that I like to emulate the work of is Jesse Barnes. Now Jesse Barnes calls himself the painter of light. And what he does is he paints really dark scape type photographs or type of paintings where the moon is prevalent and the shots are usually done at night and a lot of snow time photographs. Now it's Jesse's work that inspired me to do the shot that I showed you last December of this 2004 cover photograph that I did for Christmas for Mainline Modeler. And it's also the same painter that inspired me to do this photograph in 2013 for Blackstone Models, when I recreated the shot of the dark moon, but yet the light of the spirit of the house in the holidays was evident as I pulled the Christmas tree up the front porch. So working with painters' photographs is always a good thing to do. In order to finish this Athearn job, what I'm going to have to do now is build the scene, and it's going to be about 8 feet long. And I'll design the scene by looking through the viewfinder of the camera. I'll use code 83 rails on the main line and code 70 on the siding track, just like in the painting where everything is set up just to match. The entire scene will be painted with white latex paint as a base because this is going to be a white photograph. Now I'll carve the scene so that the siding tracks are just a little bit lower than the main line as per prototype modeling and also per the picture that we're copying. All of the tracks will be soldered together so that I can run the DCC outside to power the lights in the locomotive during the photographing process. The track will be glued down with liquid nails, and then I will ballast the scene so that the plaster and the snow will settle in a believable manner between the ties without having great gaps right there. And then you've got to figure that Chris Palomares needs to come by and then instruct me on exactly the consist of cars that he'd like to have in the photograph. And then at that point, we're ready to pursue a really good photograph. Not just a normal shot, but something where I'm going to actually do multiple photo shoots on this, try a couple of different things, and see if we can't just knock this one out of the park, and if nothing else, at least nail the painting. So let's see what happens next. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Look at that, it's going to be perfect. Just sift it out, just right through the screen. It's going to be a real light snow. Just enough to cover up the details, but you still see the details. I hope it doesn't start raining. We've got about 15 minutes before the next band of rain comes in. And this is going to look absolutely outstanding. I can already see how good this is going to look. I don't need to push the snow that far down here. Just primarily cover up this ballast. But today I'm trying something different, and that's using the way I apply dirt to a layout, because I know it comes out really fine with the fine dirt. So I figured it would work really good as a fine snow. I just want these weed tufts to stick out, so after I'm done putting this on, I'm going to brush the weed tufts a little bit so they have a little brownness to them. I've got the camera covered up so I don't get any plaster on it. And I don't see anything floating over towards the models because I got no wind today. Yesterday it was super windy, which is why I couldn't do the shot. So I'm ready to stop this and put the train on. I need to put just a little snow on the front of the snowplow of the locomotive. It's the only snow on the train. Okay, I've got my weeds in place, my railroad ties, I've matched the photograph. The train engines are clean as per the instructions. The freight cars are weathered. I got a little bit of snow on everything else. The freight cars got snow on them. So at this point I'm ready to shoot. I'm going to shoot it multiple different ways with these lights now. Well, I've got my shutter set for bulb right now and it is wide open, and I'm doing about a 5-minute exposure because even though it looks like it's totally dark out here, this camera is able to pick up so much light when you leave the shutter open that it'll make this darkness look like it's literally daytime out here. Now I had a small light on and I was reflecting a little bit of light off of the back of my house, just getting that reflection of a little bit of light to light up the side of the train with a little yellow. So I'm pretty sure if we just wait another few minutes, about 3 more minutes on this exposure, I'll show you how this shot will come out. So shooting in total darkness, let me show you how that shot came out, because the camera was able to take the shot and just absolutely make it look lighter because I left the shutter open for about 5 minutes. I did Photoshop this photograph a little bit. I added some tank cars at the end of the train simply because what I need to do is I'm going to go out right now and do a reshoot of this shot. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I've got great clouds and it just stopped raining. So I'm going to go out and do a reshoot on this shot, and we're going to get everything right this time. I'm going to add about 3 more feet of track to the scene so I've got enough trains that are coming off the rear of the shot, and just move things around a little bit, hook up the DCC and shoot it all over again. Everything's set up here. I left the plaster sitting on it overnight, so nothing's been disturbed. Everything's ready for the shoot. So now we're going to set it up and do it one more time. This is a reshoot. Now I'm going to run the DCC system outside to the snow scene, and the way I do that is I use these heavy 12 or 10 gauge power cords, and that way I just remember never to plug this in to a real electric. I've done that once, but I just run these cords outside, plug one end into the DCC system, and then I'll hook the other end up to the layout over here with some alligator clips. That way we'll have lit headlights for the shot. Okay, here we are on reshoot. I've got the shots set up, and today, instead of shooting 5-minute exposures, it's light enough out that I can do half-inch exposures, or half-second exposures. Did I say inch? Anyway, the plan now is to use Helicon focus on this because it's light enough outside that we can take that program and use it to our benefit on this shot and get all the freight cars way far in the back distance and the weeds in the foreground to be just perfectly in sharpness. So that's the plan now. I've got the camera all set up, so I'll let you watch me do it in real time here. I'm starting at the rear freight cars just like we did the Bluff a few months back when we showed how to use this program. Half-inch second exposures. I'm just focusing, working my way up the train. Let me stop talking here and get this done. I'm at the foreground weeds right now. So however many exposures that was, I know we're going to get the shot and it should come out decent. So let's find out. So after using Helicon focus and recreating that shot, I've got a great fog effect in this photograph. I think we've really captured the painting on this one. The background looks like it's snowing, the number boards are lit, there's a pickup truck in the shot right where it needs to be, but I keep asking myself in the pursuit of always making a better photograph, what is it that we can do now to this shot to make it even that much more better? Just add more pizzazz to the whole deal, just make this one, knock this one out of the park like I mentioned before. And the ideas come to me that maybe the answer is just over my shoulder. Maybe what I should do is set this scene up and do an outdoor sunrise shoot with it in the cold winter snow, just to add a little bit more sparkle and magic. Maybe I'll get lucky and get a sunburst. So let's see if this will turn out like I think it might. So here we go, about 25 minutes before sunrise now, and that's when I get the great purples and the colors when I've got a long exposure. I've been shooting about 2.5-minute exposures right now. Here's the results I've been getting. Let me show you the shot on the computer screen. As you can see, I'm getting good purples, I'm getting some good color, but now I'm going to wait. And over the next 25 minutes, we're going to get a great shot because the sun's going to rise just about at that time. So let's see what happens here in the next 20 minutes or so. So here's our moment. I've got our DCC hooked up. I've got a beautiful sunrise. I've been shooting exposures of about 1/2 second through 1 second. And everything is just coming out absolutely fantastic right now. I know we're going to get some nice, good color out of this. And this is going to just be a beautifully frigid, cold scene. So let me get these inside and process them, and let's see what we've got. And after coming back inside and looking at the photographs of the sunrise shoot on the computer, I think we've really captured it. This is the spice that just made the photograph that much better was the fact that the sun was coming up and I got a good sunburst. Now Chris Palomares at Athearn did a little bit of photoshopping and added the snow dust that you can see in the shot and the smoke on the locomotive. And the artist, Robert Frascella, contacted me through Facebook and was absolutely honored at the fact that we took one of his paintings and emulated it for us model railroaders in the type of art form that it is that we do. So with that ends this February What's Neat photography segment. This was a fun job. I hope you've enjoyed this. This was a pretty fun job to actually do. This was a good, enjoyable project.